Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Today we have a brand new set of great stories for you to enjoy. Subscribe to our channel if you're new here, and don't forget to turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Sit comfortably, and here we go. Want me to get rid of those boxes you're storing for me? Be careful what you ask for. A few years out of college, I lived in a big house with 6 other roommates, all guys and all athletes, but ranging in size from skinny, me, to former college football size. One of the biggest guys, we'll call him D-Bag or DB, thought he was God's gift to the earth. He was college buddies with another one of the big guys. The house was kind of a rotating door with people moving in and others moving out. Lots of good times were had. I was moving out about 6 months after DB had moved in, but was moving into a much smaller place by myself. I asked a couple of the guys if I could leave some of my stuff and furniture there. They were welcome to use it. Just let me know if there was a problem. They said, of course, no big deal. A month or two later, DB sees some boxes in the garage, asks another roommate what they are, and was told they were mine. For whatever reason, he decides that I shouldn't be allowed to store my stuff there for free. So he calls me up one Saturday morning telling me I needed to get my stuff out of there or pay storage rent. I tried to ask why it was a problem. He wouldn't even let me speak and tells me he wants it out of there ASAP or a check in his hand for storage rent. I shake my head to myself and tell him, sure, I'll have it out in the next couple of days. Obviously, that's not the answer he was looking for, so he tells me he wants it out today. I sigh and say, sure thing, thinking whatever it takes to just be done with it. Again, he's really aiming to have me pay him some cash. I guess he doesn't realize that if I were to pay him something, it would be split among all the current roommates. So now he tells me if I don't get these boxes out, he's going to start throwing them out into the street. I finally start getting angry and tell him I'll be there in an hour, and if he touches anything, he will pay. And I hang up. I call a couple of buddies, former tenants of the house as well, explain the phone call, and ask them to lend me a hand getting this stuff out. Good friends that they are, they tell me they'll meet me there in an hour. I wait outside for them to arrive for some moral support. Remember, DB is a good 6 inches taller and easily 80 to 100 pounds bigger and pretty fit, and I finally knock. DB answers the door, asks if I've changed my mind and will just pay something to have them store the boxes. The other roommates are sitting in the living room, so I explain to them what DB told me over the phone, and I apologize to them for what I'm about to do. I have my buddies help me grab the sofa and start moving it out the door. DB tells me I can't have the sofa, it belongs to the house. Another current roommate corrects him and says, nope, it belongs to Joe. He's not happy, but it's now out on the lawn. Next, I go to the dining room and pick up one of the chairs. He starts yelling, that belongs to the house. Current roommate again corrects him, nope, that's Joe's too. DB's PO'd, starts yelling and pushing his chest in my face, grabs the dining room chair from my hands and throws it over my head onto the front lawn, yelling something unintelligible about how much of an a-hole I am. He's gonna tear me limb from limb, etc. Cell phones weren't super popular yet, but I happened to have one from my job and had it on me. I proceed to call 911 right in front of him. Police show up 2 minutes later. They hear both sides of the story and ask me if I can have everything out of the house by the end of the day. I say sure, not a problem. They tell him if he so much as raises his voice at me before then, they'll be back. DB finally sits down on the other sofa and glares at me. I, of course, ask him to please stand up so we can take that sofa too. He looks at the other guys and they all nod, yep, it's Joe's. So in addition to the 3 boxes that he was initially complaining about, I take 2 sofas, 1 armchair, the dining room table, the washer and dryer, plates, silverware, pots, pans, basketball hoop, etc., and move it out to the front lawn. The place went from being fully furnished to just a single armchair in there. None of the furniture was nice stuff, especially after having been in that house for a couple of years, so to stick the knife in a little deeper, I put a sign up. Yeah, I brought some poster board just in case, taped it to my car saying, free furniture. He thought I was going to have a garage sale and sell everything and was telling me in no uncertain terms he wouldn't let me do it. I told him it wasn't a sale, I was going to give it all away, and if he wasn't okay with that, I'd call the police back. He, of course, then says, well, if it's free, he'll take it. I, of course, refuse and say, I'll give it to anyone except those currently living in the house, and the other roommates are standing behind him laughing. I give it all away in about 45 minutes. The guy who got the washing machine and dryer kept asking why I was giving them away if they worked fine. 2 days later, I happened to be walking by his coach, who I was friendlier with as an acquaintance. He says, I hear you stole all the furniture from their house. And he starts laughing when I tell him the full story. Apparently, DB had been complaining to him earlier that the place was so empty there were virtual tumbleweeds blowing through it. And all the other roommates were sitting on boxes or on the floor complaining to DB that he caused all of it. I probably could have gotten $300 or $400 for all of the furniture if I'd sold it. Totally worth it to see his apoplexy as I gave it all away. And our next story. Want to threaten my job for being sick and ruining your day? Enjoy having your weekend ruined as well. Many years ago, I worked at a gas station on a college campus. Mainly the evening shift, Thursday through Sunday nights. The manager, I'll call her Wanda, was a total crapbag. She was constantly failing at her responsibilities, then blaming the employees when the owner would mention something. I'd been working there for about 4 years when one morning I wasn't feeling well. I called around to see if anyone could come in for my shift, 4 to 12, but no one was available. I called Wanda to let her know I was sick and unable to come in, since part of her job was to cover shifts when others cannot. She told me to be at work and on time, or else I would be fired. So I took my sick butt up to work, and within an hour, I was throwing up. I even threw up behind the counter when I couldn't make it to the bathroom in time. I called Wanda and told her I had to leave. She got an attitude, but said she would come in anyway. An hour later, she showed up complaining that I'd ruined her day because she and her boyfriend were planning to leave to go on vacation that evening. I started to gather my things, and she asked me what I was doing. I said, I'm sick and throwing up. I'm going home. She replied, I'm just here to watch the store while you get yourself together. If you leave, don't bother coming back. So I left. Around 8 o'clock, Wanda called to ask me where I was. I told her I was at home, in bed, still sick. She told me I needed to come back to work so she could leave for her vacation. I reminded her of what she said before she left and said I was more than happy to comply. I hung up the phone and unplugged it. This was when landlines were still popular. I plugged the phone back in at 11:45 and called the store. Wanda answered after a minute of ringing, so the store had to be busy. Usually there's a ton of college folks waiting to get alcohol before the midnight cutoff. I said something like, Wanda, it's Christine. I just wanted to let you know that I'll be coming by Monday to get my last check. And also, I agreed to work doubles tomorrow and Sunday, so employee X could go home for the weekend. Good night. And unplugged the phone again after hanging up. I had a cell phone at this point, but Wanda didn't have the number, so I didn't plug my phone back in until Monday. I went up to the office around 3 to get my last check, and Wanda was furious. She'd worked an entire extra week's worth of hours in one weekend, and she was salaried, so no extra pay. She also got in a lot of trouble when the owner found out what she did, and I was rehired immediately. She was fired within a year of that incident. And our last story. But it's not a house. My uncle is a farmer in rural Ohio and has a lot of Amish neighbors. Earlier this year, one of them purchased an old farmhouse not far from my uncle's house. They got into a conversation about what his plans for the property were. The Amishman said the house was in pretty bad shape, but came with a few dozen acres of surrounding land, and he was planning on just removing the house and using the property as farmland. He figured that the cheapest and quickest solution was to just burn the house down. Uncle: Whoa, I'm not sure that's legal. Amishman: Why not? I own the house. There's no other houses nearby that could be damaged. It won't hurt anyone. Uncle: I don't disagree, but the county has regulations about how buildings can be demolished. I'm pretty sure that burning down a building is not allowed, even if you own it. You should check with the county sheriff's office first. So the Amishman borrowed my uncle's phone to call the sheriff's office, and it turns out my uncle was right. The sheriff told him that if he set the house on fire, he would have to pay a hefty fine. The Amishman was not very pleased, but thanked my uncle for letting him know. A few weeks passed and nothing happened. Then my uncle was driving home one day and saw that the house had been demolished. It looked to him like someone had just pushed it over with a bulldozer because what was left was a large pile of lumber and roofing and vinyl siding. My uncle assumed they would be paying someone else to haul the wreckage away. And yes, before you say so, I know the Amish can't use bulldozers, but they really have a lot of loopholes in that system of theirs. They can't own modern technology, but there seems to be no prohibition against borrowing or hiring modern technology. Anyway, during work the next day, my uncle sees an enormous column of black smoke rising into the sky. Alarmed, he hops into his truck and follows the smoke cloud and discovers a large crowd of Amish watching a giant greasy bonfire that was the remains of the house. My uncle finds his neighbor in the crowd and walks over. Uncle, so you decided to burn it after all? Amishman, yep. Uncle, what are you going to do when the sheriff comes? Amishman, he already came and went. Uncle, and? Amishman, well, he told me that he'd have to fine me for burning down my house, and I said, but it's not a house. It's just a pile of garbage. Burning your garbage is legal in their county. My uncle routinely does it himself. Uncle, what'd the sheriff say? The Amishman smiled slowly. There wasn't anything he could say. He got into his car and drove away. Forget farming, dude. Become a lawyer. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one.